Hello and welcome to another week of Burning Hearts, our 2026 Bible reading plan. This week is a bit of a smorgasbord week, let's say. We just finished the Gospel of Luke and we read Acts 1. Today, Monday, we are reading Acts chapter 2, which is the story of Pentecost, how the Holy Spirit was finally poured out onto the people, onto the church. And it's one of Peter's most wonderful sermons, speeches. It's a phenomenal chapter of Acts. I want to urge you to pay attention to it, read it a few times, really follow the logic of what Peter is saying. It's a phenomenal story. The thing is, though, about this reading plan is because I wanted to get in there so much different New Testament and so much more Old Testament, we don't have time to read all of the New Testament. And so we're only reading Acts chapter 1 and 2. And so our reading with Acts ends today. I want to encourage you, if you have time, maybe even this week or sometime soon, take an hour and read the rest of the book of Acts. Or at least read the first, 10, 12 chapters, something like that. It's really important. It's the story of the early church. It's the story of what these early apostles did. It's where we get to meet Paul. And the book of Acts is just a wonderful foundational story for the church. And it's our story. It's the story that we are still living in, very much so. And so I want to encourage you to continue to read Acts. But then the rest of this week, Tuesday, we're reading just one chapter from Joshua chapter 1. Joshua is an interesting story because it is Joshua was Moses' successor as they get into as Israel gets into the promised land. And Joshua is really only one of the few times in the history of Israel where things seem to go pretty well. Joshua is a tough read, though. It's a tough story. Lots of big questions come out of Joshua. But that first chapter is sort of the commissioning of Joshua. It's really good. And then we switch over to the book of Judges, which we're only reading 3 chapters from Judges. On Wednesday, we're reading Judges 2, which really sets the scene for what's happening in Israel. The great leaders like Moses and Joshua have died. And the people, now that they're in the land, are doing everything they were not supposed to do. And that's headed up by they are ceasing to worship the Lord, and instead they're worshiping the local gods like Baal, and it's a disaster. It is a disaster. Everything that God wanted for them, they're doing the opposite. And so it's a mess. And so what God does is he raises up these new leaders, these people called judges, men and women, and it says that God is with them, and the people do okay, but then as soon as the judges fail or falter or die, the people just go right back to worshiping other gods, and it's a disaster. And the book of Judges is a lot like that. On Thursday, we'll read Judges 6, which is it's just a fascinating story. It's a story of this guy named Gideon. There's a lot to learn from that story. I don't want to oversell it, but there's a lot we could take from that story. And then Judges 13 is the beginning of the story of Samson. I talked about Samson that would be two Sundays ago now. It's the beginning of the story of Samson, who is a wild character. And I would encourage you, just like for Acts, we don't have time to read the whole thing, I would encourage you to read Samson's whole story. It starts in Judges 13 and it goes through, I think, Judges 16. So it's just really interesting Old Testament stuff. One of the things about Judges is it shows how God is. He sticks with the people even when they're idiots, even when they worship other gods, and he gets angry at them, and maybe he punishes them, but he then has compassion on them and he sticks with them, and he keeps raising up these different leaders to take care of them. It's kind of a clear indication that even though Israel is just so stuck in they're digging their own grave, God is committed to their deliverance. And there's a lot we can learn about God's character from some of these stories. So anyway, check out the Bible Project videos that I'll post to kind of introduce these books. They're phenomenal. Ask me any questions. Would love to talk to you about any of this, and have a great week of reading.